Welcome to the Time Advantage, the go-to show for mid-career professionals ready to level up. Today's guest is Mohammed Khan, director, board member, and sector leader in the high-stakes world of architecture across the UK and Europe. Over his 20-year journey, Mohammed mastered not just technical delivery, but the leadership, strategy, and brand building needed for major promotions. Today, he'll share how you can position yourself for the next big step. How are you doing, Mohammed? Thank you for joining the podcast.
Hi, Amar. Yeah, I'm doing well. Hope everything is well with you as well on this sunny weekend.
Yeah, great weather, and I'm doing well. Thank you very much. At the mid-career point, what were the specific moves you made to start positioning yourself for leadership and board level opportunities?
Okay. Well, my background, I am a fully qualified architect by trade. I gained my experience and my qualification in the UK from Scotland. One of the biggest moves that I did was during the recession, move from Scotland to London, which was a massive city compared to Glasgow, very scary at first. I think one of the challenges that I found first was to understand the ways of working and how the industry was working and what skills and qualities I had to develop. And these were some of the things that I had to pick up very quickly, go out and start my network very quickly and urgently as well, due to the climate conditions at the recession point. We had very limited internet and YouTube as well, very little resource. So word of mouth and just speaking to your peers and colleagues was basically the start that I made around my mid-level career.
Okay, that's interesting. What productivity habits or systems helped you handle the transition from project delivery to high-level leadership?
That's a very good question. When I have been asked that question, I always think back that when you're at university, you're taught and you are qualified and you learn how to execute projects and execute tasks. You're never taught or you're never trained to manage people. And when you come into leadership and you become a project leader, one of the biggest tasks that we have to learn while we're on the job is delegation and dealing with people. And what I found is that when there is a transition from a project deliverer to a project leader in senior management, it's the human side that they have to learn on the job and how to deal with people, how to deal with difficult conversation, and basically how to let go. And that is the most difficult part, is how do you let go of your passion and transfer to more of a delegating person and a person that has to deal with the human side. So that's probably one of the first challenges that I had.
What was one pivotal project, decision, or leadership moment that you feel truly accelerated your promotion into a senior level?
So this was a period around the recession time of when we had COVID, so about 5 years ago, where I was a project delivery architect, day-to-day running of multiple projects, managing a handful of teams, and I was headhunted and picked, contacted me through the internet and asked if I would be interested in moving across jobs. And the job initially was to the similar role and tier level as what I was doing. But as I went through the interview process, the level had uplifted to more of a director manager role. And the job description came as someone to create a new office for a company that hadn't had a presence in London. And for me, that was very overwhelming. When I looked at the role and responsibilities, I had no experience on opening an office. I knew nothing about, the commercial real estate industry, council tax, recruiting and paying salaries. So a lot of these things I had to pick up on my own, and also seek guidance, not just from internally, but speak to my colleagues, speak to some of my colleagues' mentors. Go out to events to gain some knowledge and learn from them. And that was a very pivotal point for me, because I was learning and executing at the same time. And thankfully, it's put me now in a bigger position than what I was before COVID. Yeah.
That sounds like an excellent opportunity you had there. Shifting from technical expert to strategic leader often requires major mindset changes. What was the biggest internal shift you had to make?
The biggest shift that I had to make was, as an architect, we can be very close blinded and have our blinkers on when we come up with an idea. And generally, when you're doing a task or a project, you think of this as your own, you're very passionate about it. And then it's having the mindset of feedback. If someone comes up to you and gives you positive feedback, it's having the mindset of taking in that feedback, taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture, and then executing that challenge. One of the things that I've found is that I take advice and I seek guidance from my youngsters. So a lot of the millennials and the alpha generation, they give me some advice, and I love and I implement reverse mentoring at my practice as well. So the youngsters will come up with innovation ideas, AI, better ways of working, and me sometimes being with the dinosaur mindset, I'll take a step back and say, what, this is a really good idea. Let's go for that. And I will empower them and let them carry on, but then I'll tap in and out just to show my leadership. So I've taken on so many ideas and progressed with projects by seeking knowledge from youngsters, which is a positive.
In the architecture and data center sectors, visibility matters. How did you make sure decision makers beyond your immediate team knew about your leadership impact?
So the architectural industry generally is very white male orientated. So being in the industry, certainly in the mission critical industrial logistics industry, I've been in the industry for about 12 years now. It has been very difficult and very challenging. I believe it's using your USPs and what you feel adds value to the sector. It's good to be seen at these networking events, but having that strategic mindset of when to be seen at events, coaching yourself or speaking to people on how to tell the story of your service. When you're speaking to clients, it's not all about the consultant. We have to understand what the client's needs are as well, and what the customer's needs are. So I believe it's important to do your research and understand the industry, being seen strategically at the right time, whether that's at networking events physically or on Teams, through the internet, or if that's LinkedIn as well. But I'm an advocate of networking and business development, and again, that's something that I encourage our low to middle tier staff as well to accompany and buddy me on events, and also be seen as they are the next generation in our succession plan.
You now lead teams across multiple regions. How do you balance empowering others with maintaining oversight on major high risk projects?
Okay, so one of the challenges that we have when we're dealing with teams across multiple regions is the challenge of culture. The challenge of culture, the challenge of language, the challenge of generation. So we have to understand what are the needs of the various generations. How do you come to a common term when you're speaking to someone in Germany or speaking to someone in the Middle East? And then if you have teams across various regions, is understanding their motivational drives. What I also do is I implement general one-to-one check-ins with all my team, whether they're in the UK or they're in Europe. It's a general, 15-minute, once a month check-in, one-to-one, to understand what is the best thing that they've achieved, what are they proud of, what I can do to support them. And my leadership technique is basically, which I like to implement, is the term called servant leadership, where I work for my team doesn't work for me. So I'm there to facilitate their growth and to empower them. So I could be at the front, guiding them, pulling them, or I can be at the side, just giving them a little nudge to ensure that they're on the right career path, or be behind them, checking in and giving them that push. So key for leaders that are running teams across various regions is adaptability.
You have also been deeply involved in mentoring others. How did mentorship impact your own career acceleration?
Um, what I've uh, generally thought about is I've reflected on my career, and I've always tried to be the mentor that I've never had. I've never had one mentor across my career. I've had a few team leaders that I've seeking guidance from and have given me good advice, and I've taken that on board. But I've always been, and I've tried to be the people's director and the people's mentor, where I will come in, I'll check in, whether they're not even part of my team, I'll check in and say, how was your day? How was your weekend? How are you? I feel when you have that human to human conversation with them, it gives them a sense of belonging, and it gives them a sense of value and purpose as well. And from there, I can learn as well. And, previously mentioned that I'm implementing reverse mentoring in my office, where I'm picking up things of innovation and AI and new technology. So I believe it's a two-way street, where we need to have transparency, we need to have respect, and we need to have that openness of feedback where both of us can learn. Yeah.
Looking back, what do you advise someone to do earlier in their career to reach senior leadership faster?
Okay, so one of the things that I did, which was probably at a subconscious level, was I tend to do a 1, 3, 5 year plan. And I set this, write it down on a bit of paper, or maybe, create a graph, or, in whichever platform or medium which makes the person comfortable. But I certainly wrote it down on a bit of paper, and I said, well, what do I want to achieve at year one, what I want to achieve after year three, and what I want to achieve after year five. And I would write down 10 bullet points, and then I would recycle that and filter that down to 5 and filter that down to 3. And your expectations is, even if you achieve one goal after year one, that is one step closer to your achievement. And then after year three, if you achieve 2 goals, and after year five you achieve 3, then you've grown. And I feel the message should be that growth can be like a roller coaster. Some days you can be up, some days you can be down, but as long as you're consistent and you don't give up. So that's what I've done from my experience.
Yeah, as they say, mastery comes from doing the same thing over and over again. Obviously, developing on that. So yeah, I relate to what you're saying there.
The key message for the youngsters that are getting into the middle management, or from middle management to senior management, is that the opportunities are there. When you are out networking, tap into the clients and their consultants' motivational drives. If there's an interest in as simple as sports or culture or anything, because what I find is that yes, companies do B2B, but at the end of the day, people want to work with people. And if you can build that support network at middle management level, hopefully it will continue and don't give up. There's a lot more resource out there than what I found. And for example, like networks like yourself with the podcast, I'm sure you will have an audience and they will watch and listen to this, and hopefully some benefit will come and to someone's career, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the hope. You've balanced leadership roles with public speaking and industry advocacy. Wow.
The first, well, the reason is that I love my job. I love my career as an architect. Um, Data centers, sadly, is in my DNA. I love my sector. I love speaking. I speak to my family about data centers. Half of them don't understand what I actually do for a living. My mum still thinks I do drawings, as an architect, but I don't think I've touched AutoCAD or Revit in a long, long time. The most I'll do is a sketch. It's a balance, and I feel that for me, generally as an architect, or you could probably relate this as a project manager or an engineer or any other discipline. That for me, uh, it's about passing knowledge and it's about having my legacy and implementing and leaving my legacy now. And I feel it's stronger to leave the legacy of knowledge rather than have a building that stands for 100 years. So yeah, finding the time and balancing the time to do public speaking, supporting youngsters at workshops at universities, do career development, help youngsters with their CVs and portfolios. It's all that I do not have accessible access to all this. And going back to the mentor that I never had, I just want to do whatever I couldn't have the accessibility for. So yeah, it's difficult, but I feel it's for a good cause, and inshallah, we'll get a reward for it.
Inshallah, it's a very generous act, and in doing so, you're helping others, and the hope is that they then can then pass it on to people after them, and then in turn, that benefits society as a whole. So it's really good. Ahmed, thank you for pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to move from technical expertise to strategic leadership. For those listening, your leadership story is built one decision, one project, one influence opportunity at a time. Keep building, keep showing up. Remember, small shifts create a big impact. Till next time.